Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and privilege of having Michael Mills with Business Concepts, and I might not say the whole name.
Well, it's actually, Ken, it's Business Design Corporation, but that's okay.
Business Design Corporation. Yeah, I always call you Touchstone, though.
Well, no, that's a good.
I call you Touchstone.
That's how you know us, because that's the name of our software. We have two companies, Business Design Corporation. Remember, we were once eMyth consultants, and for many, many years, 17 years, we delivered the whole eMyth mastery program. And now we don't do that anymore. We leave the consulting up to you, and we focus specifically on the tactical implementation of processes in a law firm. And the software that we use is called Touchstone. So that's how you always knew us as Touchstone. And that's probably a great way to think of us.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your company and about you, and then I want to get right in here about scaling law firms and strategy and processes and obstacles and challenges, things like that.
Sure, that's great topics. Well, first of all, let's go back to how you and I know each other, because when you were running your law firms, you had a bunch of processes. They were probably disorganized, difficult to keep current, difficult to implement. People couldn't find what they needed when they needed it. And so you found us. And you implemented our Touchstone software in your company to make your firm run more smoothly. It made it easier for you to hire people, train people, manage people. When you sold your firm, you took all of those processes and you wanted to make them available to your consulting clients. And so we created a private process library of all of your old processes. And now Pilma clients can actually get a Touchstone account, and we link them to your libraries. So that's how you and I know each other. But real briefly, what I mentioned a moment ago is we started as consultants. Just a little history on me. I was a small business owner. I had a software application in the early 80s, helping helping art galleries computerize. And this was in the days when a 5 megabyte hard drive was $5,000. I mean, you couldn't even put a video on a 5 megabyte hard drive now. But I went through, I was in my early 20s. I was working ridiculously long hours, sometimes 6-7 days a week. I couldn't take a vacation. It was really hard for me to find people to work. And when I did find someone, it was really hard for me to train them and get them to do what I needed them to do consistently. People would leave, and it was like I was trying to fill these positions, and then I would be out of that position because I hired someone, and then they'd quit and I'd have to go back into that position. And it was like out of the box, back in the box, out of the box, back in the box. And it was terrible. And then I eventually sold that business, Ken, and I got exponentially less what I thought it was worth, because it was all about me and nobody wanted my job. So it was really difficult to sell the company for what I believed it was worth. And then I read the eMyth, Michael Gerber's book on why most small businesses fail and what to do about it. And the whole concept of that book is you've got to have standard operating procedures, SOP, documented instructions that you'll use to train people and manage people. And so we delivered eMyth Mastery for years and years and years as consultants. But what we were finding was we were giving them a kind of like a fire hose of theory, all this theory, and at the end of which they didn't have processes in place. So because that was the very foundation of the eMyth Mastery theory, we decided to focus there. So we created a software application to make process implementation easier. And that's what we do today. And that's what we do with your clients when you have mastermind clients and other types of clients who are asking you to help them implement their operating procedures. We've got the tools and the services to make that happen, make it easier for them.
Yeah, make it easier to change. I love it. I mean, we use it at Pilma even today, So we were talking before we started today, and I know you work with a lot of our people, a lot of our members, but I see lawyers that got good intentions, but it seems like they start on it and then somehow they just get kind of like stalled. I don't know. They got the software there, and I know you're teaching them how to do it. So maybe you want to talk about something before we get to that.
Sure. That's a
chicken before the egg type of deal, but
well, a lot of times what happens is people, they listen to you, or they read Michael Gerber, or they see Michael Gerber, or they read the Traction book, Gino Wickman's book. There's so many books written on, you've got to get processes in your business to be successful. And so people think, oh, I just have to write a bunch of documents. And so they write a document, and then they write a checklist, and then they create a video, and then they've got a PDF file, and then they've got a spreadsheet, and they're stored up on Google Docs, or they're stored on local people's computers, or they're stored in SharePoint. It just becomes a complete mess. And all the effort that they put into trying to systematize their business or create a process-dependent business, it never works. And so they stall out. Creating a process-dependent business is so much more than just writing a bunch of documents. And it's not rocket science. It's really simple. And we've been doing this for 25 years. So we've kind of developed a 5-step plan that makes it really simple. It's not easy. It is simple. It's not easy. It takes time. But what we find that where people stall out, Ken, is they don't have a plan. They don't have a process development plan, and they don't have a process development tool. They're trying to do it with Google Docs, or with Word, or with SharePoint, or some other tool, and it just doesn't work. Those are document sharing applications. They're not process implementation tools. That's why we created Touchstone. But also, it's not just about writing processes. There's really a very simple plan, and we've got an ebook on this that we can give, and we have services that we deliver this, and we've delivered it with a lot of your clients, walking them through the process, the 5-step plan. And one of the things that I'm going to do for any PILMA client in August, so anybody who's listening to this podcast will probably get an email from me, or maybe a series of emails, because we're going to do a PILMA group business systemization program in August. And so you'll get an email about that, but it'll be discounted. It'll be a really great program where we will literally walk you through the 5 steps. And we can talk about those 5 steps if you like, Ken, or we can talk about the challenges and why people stall out and why they need processes. When we were talking a moment ago, one of the things that happens with people, with lawyers, is they get too busy. They don't prioritize this, and so they don't do it, and they just come to work every day, and they work every day. And again, what's going to end up happening is that as they grow on their passion, but their life is going to get more and more miserable, and their work is going to get more and more miserable. And they're going to start doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They should be delegating these things to other people in the firm, but they don't delegate it because they don't have a process. And if anybody out there is saying to themselves, well, I'm just going to do this because it's going to take me so long to explain how to do it to someone else that I might as well just do it myself. Well, that is a process that they should take 5 or 10 minutes to document, so that they have a set of instructions so that they can delegate that to someone else, so someone else can do it.
Yep.
So what they end up doing is they just come to work every day, and they don't build a business. I think
the misconception too is that I think I've talked to some lawyers, and they think, well, I've got to be the one to create all the processes for everything in the law firm.
Right.
And that's the furthest from the truth, I would think.
Yeah. So there are going to be some people in the firm that don't know how to write a process, but we can teach them how to write a process. And there's also ChatGPT. For those people who were at the Super Summit, I illustrated how you can use some of these new AI tools for creating the foundation of a new process that you then just edit. And it's so much easier to edit something that's already created than it is to create it from scratch. But yes, absolutely. The business owner, the managing partner, the senior lawyer, they need to manage the process writing. They don't have to write all of the processes themselves. And PILMA has a whole set of processes that they can download and edit themselves anyway. So that's a misconception that they have to write all the processes themselves.
And you know, what I tell people is, when we're talking at masterminds or whatever, I said, listen, you know, I said, well, my people just don't have time, they complain, whatever. I said, tell them to take just 1 hour a week and dedicate it, you know, because it's like what we were saying before. It's not going to be important to them unless it's important to you. And they're going to always be something in the way, because you're never going to get caught up in the law office. If you are, you're not going to be a business lawyer, I can tell you that. So the deal is, you just set aside that hour and lock yourself up and do it. And it might take 6-8 months, but still you'll get it done. Whereas if you just keep waiting where you can block out a day to do, you never do want to do it. I mean, it's just never going to get done.
Well, how I like to position it, Ken, is they're kind of like 2 steps. The first step is create the foundation so that it's, and basically think of it this way. The first step is, let's create a table of contents of all of the processes that we think we have in our business, just the name of the process. And what we say is that there are only 4 key areas in a business. There are really only 4 things that happen in a law firm. You've got to get the business. You've got to deliver on the promise that you made in the sales process, in the intake call. You've got all these processes that are happening behind the scenes for finance, admin, HR, IT, and then you've got processes for strategy and management. So we basically call that getting, doing, running, and guiding. There are only 4 things that happen in a law firm. So if you sit down and think about, well, how do we generate new business? You'll come up with 4, 5, or 6 processes. Then you say, okay, once we generate a lead, say from an intake call, then what do we do? Well, we create a fee agreement, then we do this, then we do that, then we do this. And what happens behind the scenes? So you just list all of your processes. And then you might have 100 processes, you might have 1,100 processes. But if you have 100 or 1,100, this is typically where the business owner goes, oh, how am I ever going to get all of these processes written? Don't worry about that. Create the foundation, understand what is the scope of the project by identifying your processes. And then the act of writing those processes, that's ongoing. So your members could literally create this, think of it as a table of contents of their operations manual, probably in 2 or 3 hours, easy. If they did an hour a week on each of those 4 key areas of their business, bam, they would, even 15 minutes, that's all it would take to create that table of contents. And then what they do is they start prioritizing the writing of processes. That's ongoing. Writing processes and innovating on process is ongoing. It's going to happen for as long as the life of the business. But what you're creating is you're creating an asset that's going to be worth a lot of money. One of the things we usually say is there are really only 3 goals in owning a business. One is selling it, right? You want to sell it someday. Well, take 2 law firms, 2 PI law firms, and one of them, let's say you're buying a PI law firm and you walk into that PI law firm and you meet with Ken Hardison, who owns that PI law firm, and you sit down and you say, Ken, well, how do you generate new leads? And Ken says, well, here are our processes for generating new leads. First, you do this, first you do that, first you do this. And if we do this, we get this many intake calls. And if we follow this process for our intake calls, we get this many fee agreements. And then we do this, and then we do that, and then we do this. And they're all documented. And Ken spends the whole afternoon with me showing me his processes. Nobody interrupts him while we're talking. And he's telling me, and the intake person does this, and the paralegal does that. And here, everybody's got clarity of function, clarity of expectations. There's training, everything's dialed in. And then I go next door to another PI law firm, and the business owner, I say, well, how do you generate leads? And he goes, well, I'm the rainmaker. They call me. I do the intakes. I follow up the fee agreements. I do what business is worth more, right? So the first business with all of its processes is worth so much money. And what we see so often is people create a business and they think it's worth a lot of money, but it's not worth anything because nobody wants that job. But if I can buy a business where all of those processes are or most of those processes are documented and there are KPIs related to those, like if I get 10 intakes and I get 6 of them following this intake process, I get 6 fee agreements. Well, I just have to hire more intake specialists and hire more attorneys and hire more paralegals. I can invest money in that firm to grow it without overwhelming me as the new business owner. So basically there are 3 types of freedom. One is growing the company so that you can sell it for what it's really worth, for what you believe it's worth. And if you don't have processes, you're never going to get what you believe it's worth. You're going to get exponentially less. But another great way to find business freedom, I like to call it calling in for the numbers from the British Virgin Islands, right? Imagine, you're working maybe 40 hours a year and everybody in the firm is following processes and getting things done consistently and reliably. Or the third is, imagine you're the senior lawyer and you're just coming in and you're just cherry picking cases. One of your clients that I'm working with, that's what he does, man. He just cherry picks 5, 6, 10 cases a year. And those are the really super cool cases that he really wants to work on. All the other cases are handled by other lawyers in the firm. And he works just on the cases he loves doing. And the rest is handled by people who also love doing what they do. You got to have processes for that. No other way.
So what would you tell a lawyer that gets kind of stuck on this? What are some tips they could take back?
Well, first of all, the easiest way to do this is how I suggested it earlier. Create a table of contents of all of your processes and don't stress out about it. Just write down what you think all the processes are. Organize it into 4 key things that happen in the business: getting the business, doing the business, running the business, guiding the business. And we have an ebook on this, and people can email me to get that ebook for free.
We'll put it on the notes. We'll put the URL on the notes.
Okay. Yeah.
Of this. Just send it to Christiana. We'll put it on the notes.
So they can get an ebook on that. And we even have a list of your processes that they can use kind of as a cheat sheet for trying to understand what their processes might be. And then just start prioritizing what are the most important processes to write. And please hear me when I say, I didn't ask what are the most important processes. I said, what are the most important processes to write? If you're about to hire a receptionist or an account administrator, or an office manager, well, if you've got a list of processes for that role, those would be great processes to write. They're not super high priority processes, but they're important processes to write because you're about to hire someone in that position. And then when you're writing a process, to the extent that you write content, tons of content, this is where people fall down. They write tons and tons and tons of content. You don't have to write tons and tons of content. Write simple steps. Keep it short and sweet. If you keep it short and sweet, people are going to read it and follow it. If you write tons and tons of content, not only are you creating a bottleneck for getting processes written, because it takes too bloody long to write a process, but no one's going to read it. They're going to look at it and go, I don't have time to read that. So keep it short and sweet, because usually you'll use a process for training someone or for managing someone, holding someone accountable to the way you want it done. So if you're training someone or holding them accountable to it, managing them according to the process, you will be talking to them. And that's where you fill in the if this, then that, and answer questions. And that's how they learn it. So you just want to get the basics down. Keep it simple. Keep it short and sweet. I don't even think you need to use an hour a week, Ken. I think even some of your attorneys would say, I don't have an hour a week. Well, first of all, that's not true, right? That's simply not true. They have an hour a week, but you give me 15 minutes a week and I will make a huge difference in your life and your work-life balance and the consistency and reliability and the value of your business. 15 minutes a week is all it takes.
Yeah. And it's not that expensive, really.
No, it's very inexpensive. We actually have, for your smaller firms that have just a few employees, we have an application that's a really cool application. It's $36 a month. For your larger firms, it's $149 a month. That's unlimited users, unlimited support. It's month by month. It's even less expensive if you sign up you get a 25% discount if you sign up for the year. But it's just so important to create value in your firm so a lot of times when I'm interviewing a PILMA client, like Ken, when you refer a client to me, I'll ask them, well, first of all, before we begin, why are we having this conversation? Well, Ken referred you to me. Well, okay, so why? Something about processes, right? Why do you need processes? And I hear stuff like, well, my life is miserable, or I'm working 80 hours a week, or I can't take a vacation, or I never get to see my kids, or my wife is threatening to divorce me because I'm never home. That's a pain point that we can solve by having processes. And some of your lawyers will say, well, I have to do this work. And I say, well, what, are you the only PI law firm around? And they go, well, no. So there are other PI lawyers, right, who do this work, right? Go, yeah. So you're not the only one who can do this, right? And they always go, yeah, I guess so. So it takes a conversation to get them to this place where they realize the value of having a process-dependent business.
Well, I think, we know, if you're going to scale any business, you've got to do this. Because you can't, you know what I'm saying? It can't be like I guess if you want to stay 3 or 4 people, you don't have to have them, but if you're going to grow any at all, and you're going to expand, you've got to have this to be able to scale a business, because you got to replicate, and you got different, and you get hiring more people, you got to onboard them, and throw them in and sink and swim does not work. I can tell you that.
And what most people think, what most business owners, when they're growing, they don't have any strategy for hiring people. They just get busy and they think, hey, do you have somebody who could be a paralegal? Or they frantically go to Indeed.com or Craigslist or something, and they hire a paralegal.
Right.
And they don't have any processes to train that paralegal. And so they become kind of people dependent. And then that paralegal quits. And, really, if you've got processes where you can quickly get a person up to speed as easily and as reliably as possible, the only way you're going to be doing that is if you have processes. Here's another thing. One of the things that you and I talk about is the importance of vision, of having a strategic plan. And, for example, I have a strategic plan, just to give you an example of this, because I think this will land with some of your listeners. I have a strategic plan to grow my business to 100,000 Touchstone subscribers. When I think about that, Ken, I kind of get paralyzed. I don't know how to grow to 100,000 subscribers. So what ends up happening, if I leave it at that, if I leave that strategic idea, that vision in my head, what I end up doing is I just come to work every day and I just grind it out. And because I'm kind of paralyzed, I don't know how to grow to that level. But if you have a strategic planning process and you have that vision of, say, 100,000 subscribers, well, I can say, well, I want that 10 years from now. But what do I want in the next 12 months? And in the next 12 months, maybe I want to just double my subscription base. And now I can get excited about that. And I can start putting in play the processes to do that. And now I start getting excited about that, and I can start working on that whole idea of working in the business, working on the business versus working in the business. I can work on that because I kind of know how to do that. And I can park that 100,000 subscribers out there. And a year from now, when I go back to my annual strategic planning meeting, I can say, well, do I still want 100,000 subscribers? What have I learned in this past 12 months? Maybe I don't need 100,000 subscribers, or maybe I want to keep that vision. That's okay. But now what do I want to do in the next 12 months? And then what do I need to do in Q1 to achieve that 12-month goal? And what do I have to do every month? And I keep breaking it down into these little doable, simple tasks that I can get excited about. But even that strategic planning is a process. And there are lots of things that when I was at the Super Summit, I talked to a lot of your attorneys, and some of the marketing processes that you give these guys, they are so valuable to come up with these KPIs. They need processes for that, so other people can do the work and they don't have to do it. Yep. Other people can generate the reports and the numbers that they need to give you in the mastermind meetings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we basically want to move away from people dependency to process dependency. And this doesn't necessarily mean, like Michael Gerber gives you this feeling like you can just walk downstairs and hire someone who's lying on the pavement. I don't concur. I think you've still got to get great people.
You do.
But you need processes to train these people and hold them accountable to, so you can manage them. If you're simply people dependent, you're going to lose these people at some point. I mean, if you're hiring a 30-year-old, somebody, if you're hiring someone who's 20, 30, 40, they embrace change. They're probably going to leave. They're not going to be there for 10 years. They're going to leave after 2 or 3 years. And all that effort that you went through to train them, bam, if you don't have processes, you've got to do it all again. And that is frustrating, and it's disheartening. If you have processes, it's simple.
Yeah, but it's the reality.
It is the reality. They're going to quit. They're going to change. They're going to go to some other law firm, or they're going to go work for some, mountain initiative in Timbuktu or Kuala Lumpur or Nepal. They're going to go, they're gone.
So if somebody wants to get up with you, what's the best way, Michael?
Sorry, if someone wanted to get...
Somebody wants to get up with you, contact you. What's the best way?
Well, my email is mmills@businessdesigncorp.com. MMILLS, like Mike Mills, at businessdesigncorp.com. They can text me. I'm always open to texts. They can text me at my mobile number is 707-696-3098, or they can call Christiana or Pilma, and you guys, they have our information. And also Ken and I are going to be doing some mastermind meetings coming up, and we're going to be focusing on process implementation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, take care and thank you. And I appreciate you being at the summit back in May. You got some really good reviews, so you did a good job. Nobody said don't bring it back. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm just about to send out an email actually a snail mail pamphlet on a Pilma pamphlet on Touchstone. It's a cool pamphlet. So some of the listeners might get that, and there's information on how to contact me and follow up for more information in that pamphlet. So I think I got a few hundred that we're mailing out next week.
Good deal, man.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.